Hi guys, I'm getting streamed out on Facebook. Give me just a second. Making sure everything's working, and then I'm gonna get started. So give me a minute. All right, woohoo! I hope everybody's good today. Hang on a second, and we will get rolling. So are you? I want to make sure we're streaming into Clarity because we had a lot of people that like to just hop into there. And I'm going to tell a little bit of a personal story to lead us in today. So just give me a second. Looks like it's setting up. All right, you guys. So in the chat, while I'm getting started on this and making sure we're all good, I would love for some of you to get a little bit more vulnerable with me today because, you know, it seems like there's not enough vulnerability, in my opinion, in our relationships and our friendships, certainly not in our businesses. So looks like we're streaming. Perfect. Okay. So here's what I would love to see. Hi, Nicole. I would love to see, you know, you guys do a little bit of confessing and be a little bit vulnerable. Since I'm going to put myself out there, it would be nice to be supported by hearing some of your stories. There's ever been a time in your life where you feel like you're just not enough. And it is times like not being enough in your family, not being enough as a child, not being enough in your marriage, enough as a friend or whatever. It doesn't really matter. If there's ever been a time in your life where you feel like you're just not enough or you're not smart enough or things like that. So share a little bit about your story in the chat, because when I do these kinds of things and I gather information, because I want to know the pain points that you're dealing with, because more than likely, whatever your pain points might be with you in your business personally, in your relationships, in your life, they're affecting your business. So in Carmen's style, I step outside the box when it comes to talking about the things in our coaching businesses that could be sabotaging us or keeping us, holding us back from things. So let me start with a little bit of a story. And some of this might be a little repetitious for some of you who know me, but my story about not being enough is, I'm telling you a little bit about it because I want to take responsibility and ownership for myself taking in this belief, which is really kind of where this all comes from when it comes to not feeling enough. We can put a lot of blame on other people for making us feel as if we are not enough, or playing the victim role, or being someone who feels entitled to something, or that the world owes us something, or what happened to us is not our responsibility. And I'm here to be the first person to take responsibility for owning the feeling that I'm not enough. So I'm ending in a 17-year marriage. If it doesn't end soon, it's going to be 18 years, which I'm hoping that it ends soon. So a very long time. And there's many people, a lot of coaches there's a lot of young coaches out there that would be like, oh my gosh, that's forever. Yes, it's forever. But the end of this marriage is absolutely necessary, because in the process of being married and over the years that I have been growing up, I'm 47 years old. I got married when I was 30, had a very active life prior to that with lots of fun, made a lot of mistakes, but I wouldn't take back 1 second of what I've learned over my life. But when I look back, and I've done a lot of reflecting, because when you experience a loss like this, the loss of a marriage, the loss of your family, the loss of yourself as you knew yourself, you think back, or I would hope that people would think back and wonder, where did this, what happened? Where did things change? Where did I lose myself? And for me, that's where my thought process has gone. And my thought process is like, how did I give so much of myself and my power away to another person? In the process of this whole experience, I can look back and I can literally almost do a timeline of where I saw myself slipping away and giving away my power and losing myself to another person. Now, this is a lot about boundaries and things like that as well. But I'm telling you this little piece of my story because over the course of this time frame, when we're talking about an almost 19-year relationship, if you're including engagement and dating and things like that, I began to develop this feeling that I was not enough. Over time, I let someone else's issues, okay, this being my husband, create this feeling inside of me, that I was not enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't fit enough. I wasn't smart enough. I was not intelligent enough to do specific things. There was a lot of things happening where I felt like things were, I was being taken down a notch and taken down a notch and taken down a notch. But really what was happening was I was giving away so much of myself that I started to take this feeling in that nothing I did was ever going to be good enough. And so I'm getting somewhere with this, you guys. So just track with me here and share in the chat, share in the comments. I cannot be the only person that has developed this feeling that I'm not enough for my husband. I'm not enough for my child. I'm not enough for my family. I'm not enough for my clients. I'm not enough for my coaches. I cannot be the only one. And if I am, and you guys are holding back because you don't want to be vulnerable, that's okay. I'll lead the way, and that's fine with me. But my point is this, is that feeling this feeling of not being enough for the health and wellness profession, to be a good health coach, to be a good wife, sabotage so many different things about my life personally that could have been successful a long time ago. So where did that come from? Where does this feeling of not being enough come from? It comes from, not from the husband, not from the father, telling you that you should be more successful doing something different. It doesn't come from the friend who thinks that you should, I had someone once tell me I should get Botox. That's just an example. It doesn't come from that friend that sits there and says, you really should wear these clothes to look more professional, or do your hair this way, or from the husband who says you should do lift heavier weights for this. It doesn't come from any of those things outside of ourselves. It comes from this dialogue inside of us that continues the cycle of thought that started when we were so much younger and smaller than we are right now. Again, 47 years old. I was raised in a family of, where I look back and I thought, we had a pretty good life. We were upper middle class. My dad made a good living. We went on vacations. But as I have started to dive really deep into this feeling of how did I let my power go to somebody for almost 18 years of my life that took away my freedom, that betrayed me, that did all of these things to me, see here, I'm still using the language to me. How did I lose myself to that person? So I tracked back in my life, and I kept tracking back and going back and thinking, I wasn't born to feel like I wasn't enough. I didn't get nurtured into believing I wasn't enough. It was a message that I received as a child that I took on as something as my own. So it might have been something. So for me, maybe it was that maybe my parents had some dysfunction going on, and I was trying to get their attention. And so I stood over here watching this dysfunction and taking it on as if I could not fix it, so I'm not enough, right? I was bullied as a child. I had two boys that used to beat me up at lunch every day, kick my crutches out from underneath me when I broke my ankle. That developed this feeling that I was not enough. So as time goes on and we grow up from being a baby and we grow up into our older, into the age we are now, these experiences and these things, we take them in and they make us feel as if we are not enough if we allow them to. So where I'm going with all of this is we have a choice right now. I have a choice right now in the middle of one of the most dysfunctional things I've ever been in my life. I've had a choice since it happened to either sit in the bed that's sitting over here in this room that I'm talking to you from. I'm in my bedroom right now. Lay in that bed and feel sorry for myself and say, woe is me, and I'm entitled to this, and I can't believe this happened to me, and oh my gosh, why me, why? And I had the choice to get up and say, you know what, let me find out where I lost myself and felt that I was not enough, and let me go after that so that this never happens to me again. Okay, so are you guys with me here? Are you guys with me? Okay, so I want you to go woo-woo on me just a little bit, and I want you to think about this, okay? So in the video that was shared in the, and I'm going to share it with you guys in just a minute. I'll put it in the chat and we'll plug it into the Facebook page. She talks about how we're born, as babies, we're born and all we want to do is be touched and looked at, right? We don't have and I think she uses the example of like a leaky diaper or something like that. When we're babies, we don't go, oh my gosh, I have a leaky diaper. Oh my gosh, don't look at me, right? We're like, hey, look at me. Look how perfect I am exactly as I am. And then as time goes on, things start to happen to us. We start to develop these ideas and these beliefs about ourselves based on the world around us. So nothing we can do about that now, right, except to go back and maybe undo some trauma and the things that we went through. And all this is helpful, you guys, to be thinking about for your clients as well. But we can go back and we can fix these traumas. We can find them. We can undo them with brain spotting, tapping, EMDR, whatever it is you choose to do, if they're affecting your life today. Or maybe like me, the people that used to beat me up outside the lunchroom came and found me 20 years later at a reunion. One of them came to find me and apologize. And that this was a man who was at an event. I hadn't seen him in I don't even know how many years, probably 16 years at that time. And he apologized to me, was crying for what he had done to me. That alone was healing for me. That alone removed that trauma that he placed on me all of those years. So we have a choice where we are right now in our lives, where we can actually own the things that we have decided that no longer serve us. So for me, the idea that I'm not enough no longer serves me. I have a new lease on life. I have a new direction in my life. So every day, part of the undoing of the I'm not enough, wherever it came from, whether it was feeling emotionally neglected as a child, being beat up on the playground, whatever it may be, my choice now is to undo that by giving myself permission to be enough. So it starts within. It has to start with you. You cannot find that feeling of being enough in your business or being enough as a person anywhere outside of you. You can chase it for the rest of your life, but you will never find it. It has to come from within. And the video that I shared in the Clarity group yesterday, I'm going to share again in the replay, and we put out again an email, and I'm going to share it in the comments with Marissa Peer, is literally, I sent it out to probably, I would say 6 or 7 of my closest people, that coaches and friends, and was like, please listen to this. You know, this is amazing. Really look at this and listen to this. And I have gotten so much amazing feedback about that, hitting to the core of these people, of these friends of mine, and saying, oh my gosh, and some of them even listening to it 2 and 3 times already. I want to encourage you guys to listen to this video so that you can understand where the self-worth and the I am enough is going to come from. Because here's what happens in your business. If you are, building your business and you are going right along and you're getting all these testimonials and all these reviews, and life can be just cruising along and you feel great, right? Then all of a sudden, maybe you have that client that doesn't see the results that they want, or maybe they are just really, really sick, and they're nothing anybody's going to do is going to help them to feel better. So they're going to find the person that's closest to them, which is probably going to be you if they're working with you, and they're going to start to shift the blame from themselves onto you. And what's going to happen is this old pattern of belief about yourself not being good enough, or not being enough, or not being worthy is going to start fluttering around inside of you and being triggered. It's going to happen. If you don't take care of it and you don't know from your core that you are enough, you will start to internalize these things that are happening with your clients, and you will start to blame yourself, and you will start to take it on, and you will start to doubt. That alone, and I've done videos on connection, I've done live videos on authenticity, being yourself, things like that. That alone can take everything you know to be true about yourself, and it can shatter it. And it can take you and can move you away from the focus of your business. Just as, and let's turn it back around also, putting too much belief on what other people say about you and thinking that that is your identity because they say you're great and they think you're amazing and they think that you've made all the difference in their lives, and really believing that you are the one that did that for them, that can have the opposite, same effect as well. So if you're putting too much, you're taking too much credit, so to speak, or responsibility for the success of others, you will find yourself taking responsibility for the failure of others as well. And that can bring in that I'm not enough, I don't know enough, what am I doing in this business if I can't even help people get well? And that can sabotage you. So with that little statement behind there, and that said, I want to say this. I have a person right now that is, she's not a formal client. She's someone I'm helping for free. But she's going through a very similar situation with betrayals. Her husband cheated with a 24-year-old. She's the messages she's been sending her, all of these things that are saying, but I'm just this, and I'm useless now, and he just dumped me, and now they get to be happy, and why don't I? And the tough love for me is coming out, and I'm saying, stop focusing on them and find out what it is inside of you that makes you feel like you're not enough, because it's in here that's causing the problem. Where did this come from? Where's the origin of the story that you've created for yourself that tells you that just because some client doesn't like what you did, or the client hasn't reached their goals, or the husband cheats, or the best friend stops talking to you, or, anything, where is it coming from that is what defines who you are? So, in your business, I can tell you this much, that if you are not solidly planted in the belief that you're enough and you know enough and you are good enough exactly as you are, your clients are going to start to see that and feel that, because you cannot give them the confidence that they need to make these changes, to feel empowered, to be inspired, to really feel solid in themselves as a person, if you don't have that inside of you as well. It's impossible to give away what you don't have. And that's the same old thing. I know you guys have heard, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. Well, guess what? That's true. It's true, because you can't give out to the world what you don't have inside of yourself. So to know that you're enough, no matter what happens in your life, just because you're born and you're perfect exactly as you are, that is the foundation for every bit of success in your life. Success in your marriage, success in your relationships, success in your friendships, success in your business. I can't tell you how many times when I first started health coaching that I would get these messages from people, and it would be early on in the relationship, and they would, this is before I really developed a system, but I would get these messages and they'd be like, well, it's been a week. Shouldn't I be feeling better right now? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you should be feeling better right now, by now, at least a little bit. What could I have possibly done differently? I automatically made it my problem. I automatically took that on as my own issue without even thinking, wait a minute, I gave them everything they needed to make changes and to be better. Maybe they're not doing the work. Maybe they're not telling me the truth. I automatically shifted the blame onto myself and took it onto myself. I know I can't be the only one that's done that. I think as health coaches, we just desire to see people happy and healthy and all of that. That it's easy for us to try to take the blame instead of saying, wait a minute, hold on just a minute. Let me take a second and make sure that I've done everything that I said I would do. And then I'm going to go back out and I'm going to check in with that person and see, have you done this? Have you done this? Are you following the protocol that you decided on? Are you removing these things that you knew that would be a trigger for whatever? We're not checking back in with them. We can automatically turn it around and blame ourselves for the failure of others. So just as though you shouldn't be taking credibility for or credit for the success of others, you can't take the responsibility or accountability for the failure of others as well, right? Yeah, so I see some chats going on. So let me just make sure, let's talk for just a second, because I want to be able to give you a couple of action steps that I've learned over the years on how to stop this back and forth inner dialogue, and one of the questions of this woman that I'm kind of guiding through this right now, and let me just say this too, when you go through something in your life, and say you're a person who says, I don't know what my niche is, I don't know what to focus on. When you go through something in your life and you move through it in a way that teaches you some of the biggest lessons you've ever experienced in your life, don't be surprised if clients start coming your way that have that same problem or that say they want to reach the same goal. So I am hearing from women, I never even imagined that this would be something that I would be a magnet for, women that have been betrayed by their spouses after a year, 15 years, 20 years, people who have been married to people who are living double lives and they had no idea. They're starting to reach out to me and I don't even know where they're coming from. So when I'm getting these messages from these women that say, tell me how, make it stop. My thing is this: the first thing you have to do is you have to recognize the inner dialogue as it gets started. It's like a snowball. The minute one little, snowball starts, if you don't just pick that snowball up and hold it in your hands, meaning holding that one thought, looking at it and saying, okay, it's just this thing. It's just a thought. I can let it go, right? It will roll down the hill and gather more. And the next thing you know, you're an hour into negative thinking, negative dialogue, blame shifting, hating yourself more, thinking you're not worthy. It will never end. And next thing you know, 30 minutes to an hour has passed. You might be pouring a glass of wine at 4:00 in the afternoon. You're trying to numb out. That's the other thing. She's numbing. She's like, well, I have to have Xanax to sleep and I have to have wine and I have to have this. I'm like, so if you don't feel it, just like Candace Van Dale told us last week in a webinar we did with her, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. So in order to find that place inside of you that knows you're enough, no matter what happens to you, no matter what, if someone walks up to you and says, you know what, I don't like that. I don't like that kink in your hair right there, or I don't like the way that you dress. You know what you would turn around and do if you were a person that knew that you're enough no matter what, is you would say, I'm so sorry for you that is a problem, but thank you for your opinion, right? Something that you don't take that in and own it as your own, because that's what we are automatically doing for some reason. Unless there's someone out there that's like, hey, I got it all going on, I don't ever have this problem, which I don't see many people that are doing that. I certainly don't see a lot of coaches very small percentage of coaches out there that think that they are enough. They don't think they're enough to do this job. They don't think they're enough to help people. They don't think they're enough to even help their friends and family for pay. There's so much of this low self-worth and this feeling that they're not enough out there that I really want to bring some light to this. Because if we don't believe that we're enough, how can we help our clients to believe that they're enough and that they're deserving of health and wellness? How can we actually give that message to people if we don't have it for ourselves, right? So here's another thing. Here's one thing also that I like to do when my mind starts racing and I can't make it stop, is I see things coming from, well, it's my left over here, but I'm probably on your right. But I see things from the left coming across like a movie screen, kind of like slides. So if thoughts are coming rapidly at me and they're things that are just got my mind going, I like to stop the slide in front of me, right in the center of my mind. I like to see what the thought is. Maybe it's something like, I don't know, you can't lift as much weight as that person over there. That makes you less worthy. I might look at that thought and say, okay, I acknowledge that. I see that thought. And then I say, I'm not judging myself for that. And then I let it go. The next thought might come in. Okay, so, maybe you aren't, maybe you didn't make all your meals for this week for your family. Maybe you went and got pie 5 cauliflower pizza or something like that. Does that now, you should be a better mother. Okay, I'm going to look at that and I'm going to think, okay, so that's a thought. It has no power or control over who I am, and I let it go. I try to almost do it like a slideshow, and I pause and let go and pause and let go. So that's one of the things that's been super powerful for me over the years. But you have to know how to be present, to see the thought when it's happening, to not judge yourself, and to learn how to let it go. So that's one of the exercises that I've learned to do over time. And even if you can visualize yourself almost sitting there with a button, like the old, I'm aging myself here, the old microfiche when you're at the library and the slides are crossing and you stop it and you look and you stop and look. You look and without judgment, you let it pass. You look and without judgment and let it pass. Nothing can hold energy unless you give it to it, okay? So no one can hold power over you unless you give them power. And so that's the other part of this I want to touch on. And I've only got about 10 minutes left. I know that some of you thought the webinar went to 2:30. It's not really a webinar. It's just me doing a live talk about this stuff because I felt like it hit me in the gut yesterday when I listened to Marissa Peer. And it hit me that way because I have worked so hard in the last year and a half to get my power back that I gave away. I take full responsibility for giving my power away. I'm not all the way to forgiveness. I got a long way to go for forgiveness because I'm in the heat of some things right now that are really triggering me to kind of hang on to that anger. But forgiveness is a really big piece for me of healing. But learning that I'm enough, knowing that no one deserves to have my power but me, has kept the focus on me. And I know women who, had they gone through what I've gone through, probably never would have gotten out of bed. They would have been in therapy, they'd have been on pills. It's that bad. It's that bad. But here's the thing. Something inside of me knows that I'm meant for bigger things. Something inside of me knows that no one gets to tell me what I'm worth except for me. And here's the other beautiful thing. When you take on a practice, I'm hoping you guys are going to watch the video I'm going to share. And if anybody has access to it real quick, plug it in the chat. Save me a step. But once you start practicing knowing that you're enough and taking action steps, you're going to see things start to happen that tell you that's true. So let me give you an example. This is actually, I don't even know how long it's been. Me and a friend and fellow coach, someone I've gotten very close to, I told her, I said, you know what? We're going to go on this I am enough thing. This is a couple weeks ago before I even saw this Marissa Peer video. And I said, I'm going to write it. I'm going to dry erase it, write it on my mirror. I'm going to write it on the shower stall when the steam comes up. I write it on note cards. I say it in my head. If something's happening where I start to, thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you for putting that in there. If something starts to happen to me where I start to feel this doubt or I start to forget who I am, I stop instantly and I say, I am enough. No matter what happens, I'm enough. No one's going to take my power from me. I am enough. Because what happens there is you can stop, you can say it, and you can, even if you don't mean it, fake it till you make it, you guys. Fake it till you make it, because once you start saying it, the universe, God, whoever you believe in, starts showing you that you are by bringing people into your life that maybe, that you maybe didn't even think that could add anything of value to your life. So this is an example. if you have any kind of insecurities or doubts. So let me give you an example of a friend of mine who was talking to me about her relationship the other day. And she was like, well, what if he doesn't really care for me? What if he's just saying that? And what if all these what ifs started coming up? And I said, you know what, just take the next day or so and start telling yourself that you're enough. Just start the practice of it. Just start saying I'm enough and see what happens inside. Sure enough, as she started the practice, the boyfriend started coming in and validating her feelings, and started paying more attention to her, and started giving her that feeling of love and security that she was looking for. But it had to come from inside of her first, because he was not able to access that in himself for her until she was able to do it for herself. This stuff is for real, you guys. We are not separate from our mind and our body, and neither are the people that we're working with, and neither are the people that we're trying to help. So if you're a person that thinks you've got it all together and you don't have any blocks and all of that, and then all of a sudden a client comes to you and they don't get well, and you find yourself doubting yourself, and you find yourself saying, maybe I'm not meant to do this. Oh my gosh, if I can't even help someone get over leaky gut, how can I help anybody else? If you are a runaway train in your mind when it comes to working with your clients, you need to stop with whatever it is that you're thinking or doing, and you need to start with I am enough, because that means you're enough no matter what happens to that client. You're enough no matter what happens with your husband. You're enough no matter what your dad and mom think you should be doing for a living. If they think health coaching is not the best profession, they don't know how you're going to make a living. You're enough even if the nutritionist down the road starts blasting you because you're a health coach. You're enough if someone jumps into your Facebook page and says, what do you know about health? You're just a coach. You haven't had any formal lab training. You know what? I'm enough. I'm enough. And I don't need anyone's opinion to tell me that I'm good enough or that I know enough, because I know inside of me that is the truth, right? Is this resonating for anyone? Am I just on a ramble here? I'm really hoping that this video stuck a chord for some of you guys. Wow. Okay, there's lots of chatting going on in the chat. Oh my goodness. Okay, totally tracking with you on giving yourself away, giving your power away 100%. That is it. And Nicole, I'm saving the chat because I want to read through all of these. These all get saved. So I get to take a peek at them. Yeah, I'm so wanting to learn to help clients with trauma release, to see it again and again. Yes. Well, you know what? Trauma release has to do with obviously getting good therapy, but also supporting them through the process and letting them know that they are not what happened to them. And that's another thing that helps us to know that we're enough inside of ourselves, is to know that just because something horrible happened to us doesn't define us or become who we are. I am not a victim of what happened to me. I am not a victim of someone else's behavior and choices. I've actually been married to someone who says he never ever knew who he was, and has never been real a day in his life. So that means that I might have been married to someone I don't even know for, almost 18 years now. But that doesn't change who I am or who I've become or what responsibility I have for giving myself away to that person, right? Okay, so let's see here. So true, Carmen. Amen. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Marissa Peer is incredible. So I see someone here is looking into studying with her. All circumstances rarely have anything to do with us. Well, I say, here's the thing. I say they never have anything to do with us. I don't say rarely. I say never. And the reason I say never is if let's say I do something harmful to someone, or I say something that hurts someone's feelings, or something I do just is shitty, period. And then that causes a reaction in someone. Okay. So how that person reacts, that's not my responsibility. Maybe it has something to do with me because I was involved and I was the person that treated that person poorly, but how they react to that is up to them. So that's also something else. You can take responsibility for yourself and what you do to other people, but you cannot own what they're doing or how they're treating themselves because of what involvement you have, right? That's taking away the power for them to become enough for themselves. That's something we all have to learn on our own. So we're all going to screw up. We're human beings. We're human beings. We are not perfect. We're sinners. We're whatever you want to call us. But the thing is are our eyes wide open to what we're doing? Are we able to be a part of the growth process by knowing that everything starts with who you are inside and how you react and how you feel about yourself? And that's your relationships with your family, your marriage, your friends, the neighbors, your clients, wherever it's coming from. It all has to come from a feeling of worthiness, and that you are absolutely 100% enough exactly as you are in this moment. not a minute from now, not 30 seconds ago, or from now, not yesterday, in this moment right now. So let's see here. Yeah, we're talking about responsibility. And someone says, I'm so sick of apologizing for being me and for apologizing when I've done nothing wrong. Then I'm just going to say, stop. Stop doing that. Absolutely 100% stop doing that. Yeah. And is it Tammy? That webinar was unreal. If you've not watched it, do. Yeah. Candace Vandell, she's amazing. Yeah. Eat up her webinars. I interviewed her last week and the replay went out and it lives in the HCMM and the student page, but you can also YouTube her, Candace Vandell. She's amazing. So following that track, that's kind of where I'm going with all of my stuff here lately, you guys, is that, I'm so bored with smoothies. I mean, I think it was Claudia that said smoothies make her snore, or juice cleanses make her snore, the topic. I'm super tired of those topics too. And that's why, at the Institute for Functional Health Coaching, we don't really talk about any of that. We talk about the good stuff that really gets down underneath it all and finds out what the hell has happened to us as a human race that we don't think we're good enough to be worthy of love and belonging. Like Brene Brown says, that we're worthy of other people loving us and caring about us, that we have to look perfect or be perfect or present ourselves as something other than a perfect looking health coach, a perfectly healthy health coach, a health coach that has an encyclopedia in her brain of every disease known to man. We need to drop all of that and know that exactly where you are right now in your knowledge, your certification, your training, your understanding of diseases and conditions, how many clients you have. None of that matters because you're good enough in this very moment right now, no matter what. It's up to you to figure out how to make yourself believe that. So it's deep into your cells so that it goes right straight into your heart and that you know it and you feel it and it's never going to go away again. It is a process to get into. It is a place that we, many people think is woo-woo, but it's not. If you think it's woo-woo, that's fine. Stay where you aren't enough. Stay in your non-growth process because that's where you are. If you are not constantly trying to grow yourself and make your heart bigger and open yourself to others and be vulnerable and make connections and say, I felt for many times in my life that I'm not enough. And do you ever feel that way? Do you? Make connections. I have had more in-depth connections with coaches that I've gotten the privilege of spending time with, Tammy and Claudia and Jennifer and all of these people, and been able to open my mouth and be vulnerable with them and tell them exactly who I am, and they still love me and care about me because I know that I'm good enough whether they know my faults or not. So I encourage any of you who is feeling as if you don't have anyone to open up to or be vulnerable with, do it with each other. There's no safer place to be who you are than with people who are trying to grow to help other people, because you will stagnate in helping your clients if you are not constantly growing yourself. Okay, you can focus on food all day long. You can focus on detoxes and cleansing, whatever. You can do all that. You know how I feel about that. But are you really getting down to the nitty gritty and the deep down stuff that your clients are actually dealing with that's causing them to eat too much, that's causing them to feel stressed, that's causing their marriages to fail, that's causing them to not exercise, that's causing them to spend money on all the wrong things? That's another thing is, well, my client, nobody out there has money to spend on this thing. No, because they're spending money on numbing everything that they don't even know about themselves, right? Get your nails done, get your red wine, go out with your girlfriends, get all these nice clothes. It's all forms of numbing. All your clients are doing it. Find out why it's happening. Why do they not feel like they're enough, that they're not worthy of good health, that they're not worthy of good relationships? This is up to us, you guys. At least I believe it is. I don't know who else is going to get into these people except psychotherapy and counselors and stuff like that. And you can do this in a safe way. It's absolutely possible to make a big difference in people's lives by being more open and more vulnerable and really putting yourself out there. Right? All right. So, all right. Lots of talking. Yes. Thanks for sharing and discussing this topic. I created a belief of not being enough because I was not outgoing like my mom, more of a natural introvert and feeling capable of doing what she thought should be so easy for me socially, but it wasn't. Yeah. And that's the other thing. And I'm going to read that in depth for sure. But that's the other thing is, another thing that's been really helpful to me is to know that, my mom and dad did the best that they could with raising me. They did the best that they could, and their parents did the best that they could, and so on. So we can go back and we can say, I did the best that I could, but now that I know better, I'm going to stop a cycle of dysfunction. I am going to change and shift the way that my son sees things or my daughter does things or how they perceive me to love them or the message that I send out to the people in my life. Sometimes I randomly just send my kid notes or put them in under his pillow at night, and he's 13 years old, so I try not to embarrass him. But I always have said since the day he came into this world, actually been writing to him a journal since he was 5 weeks in my tummy. And so I've been writing all of these years, 13 years. And I say, you are perfect exactly as you are. There's nothing you could do to make me love you more. Everything about you is exactly as it should be. So if we can send those messages to our children, and we can send those messages to each other, and we can send those messages to our clients, why are we not able to send them to ourselves? That's the first place we have to go. So tell yourself those messages, right? All right, so here's a couple things I'm gonna throw your way, and then I'm gonna be done. I'm never done rambling. I mean, I could go on for days about this, but here's a couple of things that you're gonna find in that video. So here's some key things she said. If a symptom has a role, a function, a purpose, or an intention, it doesn't go away. So in other words, if your clients are dealing with symptoms or problems or things that just aren't leaving, there's a reason it's happening. There's a purpose for it. It's serving a purpose. It's psychosomatic. It has to do with emotions. Look up again, John Sarno, The Divided Mind, talks all about this, how we can manifest symptoms and problems in our body if we're afraid to look at the emotional reason it's happening. Can just about guarantee about 90% of your clients are doing this. You can't eat, drink, shop, or think your feelings. Feel the feeling until it doesn't have to be felt anymore. I love this. This means don't throw it away. This means as it crosses the slideshow of your mind, you see it, you see the feeling, you see the thought, you look at it, you feel it until you don't have to feel it anymore and let it go. Be aware of what you're feeling. Say out loud, I was hurt when and by. Say it out loud. It loses so much power. It's just like praying. Sometimes I like to pray out loud. It just feels like it connects me more. Repeat to yourself, how would a perfect parent, teacher, or teacher praise you? And that's just like the same type of thing. And I'm reading from this thing if you guys are wondering, but you know, I like to say to people when they say, you know, well, I'm worthless and I'm not worthy of this. I'm like, how would you talk to your daughter? Would you tell your daughter that? Well, of course not. Well, then why are you talking to yourself that way? If you weren't parented properly growing up, or you were emotionally neglected, or felt like you didn't get the love you deserve, you've got to turn around and give it to yourself, because no one else is going to be able to do that for you. And trust me when I tell you, there's a little kid inside of you that can be a real MFer about getting their needs met. That little person inside of you is trying to get your attention, okay? Give it the attention it deserves. If you're not used to praise, you'll reject it. If you're used to criticism, you'll add it in. Absolutely, 100%. And it says, so here's a couple other things. It says, I'm choosing to, and then you make out a list of things that you're choosing to do for yourself. And then you do the I'm enough everywhere you can, note cards, index cards on the window, and the frost on your car, on the steam in your shower, until it starts to sink into it, to really penetrate into your body and change the way that your DNA is, and the way that you think, and the way that you express yourself. It'll happen. I promise you it will. Okay. So one more thing here. Helen says, I've been suffering for this for at least 6 weeks now because of what somebody said. Well, Helen, here's what you can do about that. You can take your power back, and you can see that maybe you can see that conversation that you had with that person, or that statement that someone said to you, and you can thank them for saying what they said. Thank you for that statement, or I can appreciate that your statement, but I am enough, or I don't believe that to be true about myself, or here is the truth about myself. You can always revisit the dialogue and change it to fit what feels right for you now. But you cannot carry what other people are telling you. You cannot carry it, because most of the time if someone says something to us 5 minutes later, they don't even remember they've said it. They've changed their mind, or they've disconnected from the conversation or something like that. So anyway, all right, I'm going to go back and read the chat. I'm going to talk some more about this again as time goes on, because I really want to start shifting you guys a little bit about how you think about yourselves, how you feel about your business, how you feel about what you're doing in the world. It needs to come from us first. Has to start here. The coach starts with the process of building themselves up and knowing they're enough, so that they can spread it out into the world, so that we can see real change. All right. So that's it. I got to go get my kid right now, or I could be a bad mom, but I'm not a bad mom. I'm just a late mom. That's all. No one's going to make me feel like a bad mom just because I'm getting in car line a little bit late. Right. So nothing's an emergency, but an emergency. I like to say that a lot. I think that lowers our stress. And nothing is important in this world except the things that feel important to you in the moment that they're happening. So get present in your life. And if you don't feel like you're enough, find someone that can tell you how great you are until you believe it, so that you can take that in and start believing it for yourself. All right? Okay. So I'm enough. I am enough. And so are you, every single one of you. And it doesn't take anything else to make you that way except for being alive. Have a great rest of the day, you guys. Thanks for listening.